Welcome to Drum and Drummer, a podcast focused on drums, drumming and drummers. I'm George Pickering and that's Ben Winty, and we are both professional drummers in this business we call music. So stick around and join us as we pass the time whilst trying to stay in time.
Word of advice, don't sit on a butt kicker when you need the toilet.
Welcome to Drum and Drummer.
Welcome.
You're having a good day. All right.
Yeah, you caught me by surprise then. I was looking out the window and then you
just started singing. Just started singing at you.
It's good.
That's what
How
I do.
Are you? Yeah?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Yeah. Had a week off gigging, which is lovely. Lovely, just have a Saturday night in.
What did you do on your Saturday night in?
I'm guessing I built Lego.
Yeah. Well, do you not remember or...
Wow, that weekend hasn't happened yet.
Oh, I see. Oh, the week is now. That's your week off gigging. Got you.
Yeah, just had the week off. But
yeah.
timing and all that, innit?
Big time. What Lego have you got? You know.
Well, splurged a little bit recently, but left to build is the Spider-Man No Way Home end battle scene. Where it's all Spider-Man. What? What's
Are you
confused
looking
you?
at me as if I'll know what any of that meant? I know what Spider-Man is.
Yeah. Have you seen Spider-Man No Way Home?
I've seen the one with who came out years ago, and he does like the upside down kiss. That's all I remember from it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire. Yeah. Seen that one.
Okay. Yeah. There's been 3 different Spider-Men since then.
You know.
It's part of the Avengers. The Marvel MCU. It's the 3rd one of the new Spider-Mans with Tom Holland. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Because, spoiler alert, the old Spider-Man come back from the multiverse. It's amazing for many different reasons. But there's a big battle at the end of all the baddies around the sort of Statue of Liberty, which they're constructing to have Captain America's shield. And they've just made a little Lego set of that end battle scene with the Statue of Liberty head and all the 3 Spider-Men and the villains fighting. So I've got that to build.
Nice.
Also got the... I bought it a while ago, but they released a really big sort of bat cave.
Right.
That's is a kind of big black box with a cutout of the Batman logo, and then inside you can see the Batcave, and you can open it up like a big book, and it's got all the Batmobile and all the Batcave and sort of stuff. But that's a big set. I've been saving that because you got to earn the right to have fun and build the Lego.
Yeah. And what do you do to earn it? Is that like
work.
A good week at work? Yeah.
So maybe I'll be like I'm working on this album still, and I think maybe once that album's finished, that'll be my reward.
Yeah, that's good.
You gotta put a carrot on the stick sometimes, George.
Yeah.
I've talked about the Mustang before. And a motto I still carry with me to this day is do your homework, then play football.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
No, you can't.
Can't go wrong.
Eat your veg, then you can eat your meat.
Absolutely. Get the veg out of the way. Rubbish. Yeah. Save the good bits to the end. Yum, 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 yum. Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just a bit sunburnt. I went out yesterday. I know. I didn't wear... You know when you can feel that you're getting sunburnt? Mm-hmm. And you're like, I'm sure I'll be fine. Didn't cream. I didn't cream up.
I've learned too many times where I've been like, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
And I get horrendously burnt.
Yeah.
And so now I'm the other way where I'm like a 20-minute walk to work. Even this morning, it is sunny. I'll cream up.
I'll
cream up. There's 2 additional reasons. One, the bald head.
Do you not wear a hat?
I'm not a hat guy.
You're not really a hat guy. You used to wear a beanie a lot.
I'm a beanie guy in the winter.
Yeah.
But caps just don't really suit my head because it's kind of shaped like a butternut squash where it sort of goes in near the eyes and then big round bulbous bottom half.
Yeah.
And caps sort of just don't suit me because you've got much more of a baked bean head, which I think works.
Perfect for caps.
Better. Perfect.
There's some drummers who wear caps and then every now and then you'll see them without a cap and you go, yeah, it makes sense. Keep it on. I feel like I'm in that group. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Always hatting up.
And reason number 2, the tattoos. You should really put sun cream on.
Yeah, Jesus.
And I can feel if I'm out in the sun, the left arm getting more irritated by the sun than the right. because the left arm is absolutely littered in the ink. I am inked up, baby.
Inked up, baby. Right. Let's talk about our guest.
Yeah, we got a guest.
Got a guest. We haven't had one for a while, so this is good. Dano.
Dano.
We asked him before we, started the interview, Dane or Dano, and he said he's been called Rave before in a Starbucks, so we couldn't go too far wrong.
Dano.
Oh yeah, Dane
Dano.
Earl.
That's
I
his
thought you were
full
saying Dano, but like a different way. Dane Earl. He's drum tech for Ben Thomas of Rag and Bone Man.
Yeah,
and
Ben Thomas, a friend of the show. We've chatted to Ben. Let's get his drum tech on. Let's get the goss.
Yeah.
What's Ben really like? Behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk about it too much. Let's just dive on in.
If you ever wonder what it's like to be a drum tech, listen to this.
Cheers for doing this, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, man. It's exciting.
It's all good. Is it Dane or Dano?
Well, my official name is Dane. You can call me Dano. A little bit easy. Otherwise, people get confused with Dave.
Yeah.
And I have Dave or Dame with an M. So it's just easier, isn't it? Really.
Well, I accidentally called you Dan on my first message.
That's right. There's worse names in the world, man. I'll take Dan.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I fucked it. He won't come on now. I've given him the wrong name.
When you like go to Starbucks or something and they ask for a name. I've got quite a confusing surname, so that's just confuses the world anyway. But my name's Ben, and it often gets written down as like Dan.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like one time, I swear I got like Rave or something. Joking, man. Like something really bonkers, and I was like, "Are you joking?" Like, quite clearly.
I think they do it for a laugh. See how far they can stray from the name.
Yeah, I would as well if I worked at Starbucks. I'll just be like, "Oh, what? Your name's Felicia?" Oh yeah.
I started to use Winston.
Winston.
I just started to give the name Winston for like when you're ordering a kebab or getting your Starbucks Frappuccino in.
Why not? I did it the other day. I was with my partner and we were looking for a new sofa, and there was this sofa salesman really trying to sell us one, and we were trying to get away, but he wouldn't let us leave. And then at the end, he was like, "What are your names?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm Elfie," and I went, "Oh, I'm Tim," and she started laughing, and he was like, he could see he was confused and could clearly see I'd given a different name, but I didn't want to tell him my name.
It sounds good.
So, you are the drum tech for Ben Thomas, Rag and Bone Man. I mean, let's start with how did that come about?
It's actually a crazy story. For a long while, throughout my life, I'm a very impulsive person. I've had about 1 million jobs, and I was working at a bar called Level 1 in Worthing. It's like a rooftop sort of bar that looks out onto the coast. I sort of paint a magical picture. It's Worthing, so it's not really that magical. But I was working there with a girl called Jodie, who, bless her heart, is one of my best pals. And she introduced me to her boyfriend called Charlie, again, now one of my best pals. And we just got chatting about music, and I was saying about how I want to be a drummer, all this. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I do tech," and so he techs for London Grammar. He's just been in the US with Declan McKenna, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. And he ended up getting me and Jodie, his partner, into a show, London Grammar show, sort of in the production bit, so we could watch it. And so we sort of watched that show, and I'd never really thought about teching as like an avenue. And then literally just out of the blue, he sort of called me and went, "Oh, I got this week free with Rag and Bone Man. Do you want to come tech?" And it sort of happened like very quickly. But he sort of on the phone said, "Well, I know you're not necessarily experienced," because I didn't even really know it was a thing. Like I knew there was roadies, but I never sort of painted myself out as a roadie,
Yeah.
Roadies. I mean, I am a roadie now. So, and he was like, "I've got this week," and I was like, "Yeah, 100%, man." I remember just at the time, it sounds pretty cringe, but at the time I was on the phone going, "Oh my God, this is crazy. This is crazy." And I was like, yeah, 100%, I'll do it. And so he arranged that. And actually, I think it was it was Isle of Man, and then I think we were in Switzerland. So like it was a big sort of like the first run was sort of pretty daunting. Like there's a lot of different like countries and stuff.
When was this?
So this was literally May last year, end of May last year.
All right.
Actually, I went on tour on my girlfriend's birthday. It was her 21st. We're both 22 now, but it was her 21st birthday. So like, you know, one of the big ones. And she'd been there for mine, and we'd done, you know, some nice stuff. And then he was like, oh, okay, yeah, do you want to do tour? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, it's on this date. And I basically, well, let's just say the days before her birthday, I had to make some good plans. You know, I had to make her feel special because, you know, she's always supportive, but she was pretty gutted that I was going away. Anyway, yeah, so that was at the end of May. And I remember I was like, oh, this will be fine because I was actually touring with Charlie. Charlie was the guitar tech at the time. So I was like, okay, well, I'll be touring with him. And we went to the meeting place to meet all the buses and meet everyone. Bearing in mind, this is my first time. And Charlie called me and said, I don't know what, he had something wrong with his lung, I think. He's okay now, but he had something pretty serious. And he was like, look, I'm not going to make it. So instantly my day got like, you know, not that it's about me, but my day got a bit like, oh my God, like I'm now meeting all these people. He's not going to come with me. So I was a bit chill when he was coming with me.
So was it originally, I just got to ask, was it originally he was the drum tech and you were sort of helping out? Was that how it was going to be on the first one? Or?
He was a guitar tech. So I actually got on the gig and just went straight into, like, the drums were just on me. So he wasn't,
wow.
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything. He was the guitar tech. So he literally said, do you want to do this? And then the first gig, it was like, well, here's the drums. Just set them up.
Jesus.
Bearing in mind, I'd never, ever tuned drums for anyone but myself. As we all know, like, tuning drums in your studio, you just kind of think, that'll do. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're practicing whatever, you know, you could play on like a loose head. It doesn't matter if you're playing drums. But like, I was suddenly like, wow, you know, I've now got to tune drums, one for Ben and two for 10,000 people who are ever watching it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if it sounds jank, then I'm gonna be the one that gets it in the neck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it sort of. Long story short, yeah, it was just kind of that. But you know, before that all happened, I mean, me and Charlie were, you know, we're pals, like meeting up, playing pool. Like we were friends for a while before we sort of said, you know, do you want to do this? And then so I just kind of got chucked into it.
Yeah, that's proper in the deep end. Yeah,
when it came to that first show and you know, you said setting up the kit was all on you. Like, were you given any guidance, or was it like, did you have any, you know, how did they say like, this is how Ben likes his kit set up, or, you know, did you work with Ben straight off the bat? And
so we met at a place called Rocket in London before we got on the tour bus and stuff to Isle of Man. So I sort of said hello to him, all that. So, but I obviously got there's a drum tech before who gave me a handover. So I had basically images and a written document about where his drums go and all that. But setting up drums from photos, because I've had to do a few handovers. I had COVID, so I had to dep out a gig. But handovers, they're really good. But trying to set up drums from photos, you know, you can only do it to a certain sort of level because it's a personal thing. You know what I mean? If someone if I took a photo of my drums and said to someone, set that up, I mean, they'd do it. But obviously, I'm going to then start changing stuff as soon as I sit on it because it's a personal thing. So yeah, I did have a handover, but it very much was like, you know, first show, here we go, that's it. It's only someone like sort of sitting there and like helping me through it. I mean, all my tour crew are lovely. Like they said, if you need anything, just give us a shout. But I just thought, well, I'm just going to get on with it and just see what happens.
Like your drum setup is such a personal thing for each drummer.
Yeah.
Was there anything with Ben's setup that you were like, that's weird?
Do you know what? Like, the only thing really that not weird, but I found that I'd never really thought about it. So Ben has his cymbals angled away from him. And at the time I was like, whoa, like, okay. And I think I might have set him up flat the first time and was like, well, that's just how cymbals go. And again, this was my sort of knowledge just suddenly went boom. And I was like, wow. And actually now playing this kit very often for the last 2 years, I quite like it.
Yeah. I like the idea of you putting them flat and being like, "No, Ben, that's how they're meant
These
to
are
be."
how cymbals are meant to be. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
So what's what's an average day as a drum tech? Run me through like, from getting off the bus to the end of the gig. How's it go?
Yeah. So the average day for me, we sort of get off the bus. I'm not very good at waking up, but we won't go into that. I get off the bus, sort of, do a little stretch, look around, think, wow, I really have no idea where I am. I'm just in a field. But here's the stage, so this is all I need to know. Got to stage, wait for sort of all the gear, because we have a lot of locals, obviously at festivals, which just makes everything easier. Sort of rolling all the flight cases off.
Mm.
And sort of once, because it basically the way we pack a truck, like backlines at the back, so we sort of are the last to set up. So once our backlines off and the risers are all in place, it's a case of basically guitar tech doing his thing, open the flight case for drums, set it up. It normally takes me about an hour and a half. Like on a good day, like if that's a rental kit, it's about an hour and a half, like to get it properly, like all nice. But with actual Ben's kit, which obviously is like our kit, like I'm so used to it, I could probably do it in an hour. But like, so that's sort of because there's triggers and stuff like that, and you've got to plug in looms and all this. So yeah, set the drums up, then the triggers, all this, tuning it as well, changing heads. I used to change heads like every 6 or 7 shows, so I didn't change heads like really regularly. So yeah, like set up, and then after that, when I'm sort of set up, so I was sort of doing the keyboards as well. I sort of got thrown into that because it's only me and a guitar tech, and there's like keys, bass, drums, and guitar. I mean, there's so many guitar changes; it's actually ridiculous. So I was sort of doing keyboards as well. So I started by literally basically throwing the drums up and then moving on to the keyboards. So like stands, then the keyboards, plugging all that in. But after setup, it's basically just I'm ready for line check, and then do a line check, and then that's it. Basically, that's basically it until the show, and then sort of after line check, before we sort of go away and catch up on sleep. Ben, the band will do a sound check, so Ben will sort of check out the kit and just adjust anything he wants. As I was saying, it's personal, so he's always tweaking, man. He's always tweaking. Like, I reckon even if he knows, and I love Ben's my brother, but even if he loves how I've done the kit, I think he'll always tweak it.
Yeah, it's like let's put those cymbals a bit further away. They're a bit too flat. Something like that.
It's funny as well because he loves. He's always said that I've done a wicked job, but I think he'll always tweak. The day that he doesn't is the day that I've won.
Yeah,
is the day he's given up on music.
Like, what's the point?
If you're let's say you're doing a festival and your show time is 9 p.m. What sort of time are you doing that setup? And is it right that you're doing it like essentially like behind a curtain, like backstage on a drum riser, and it all gets patched in and everything? Is that done like off the stage, and when does it come onto the stage? Just what's the sort of timings with a show like that?
Say we've got a show at 9 p.m. I would say we'd be up by 8, like on stage at like 9, maybe on stage at 8. So sort of wake up call, because there's always breakfast, like obviously catering on site. So it might be that I get up at 8, have breakfast on stage for 9. If it's a headline show, we'll set up on the front, on the stage, and we won't move. So there'll be no other bands there. So it'll literally be a case of us setting up, leaving it, and we'll put like black drapes over it if there's support bands and stuff. With regards to festivals where we're not the headline, or we are, but we have to move because of the stage like size, we'll either set up behind a curtain and it will all be patched in. So we'll get power backstage or side stage. So quite often there'll be a band on stage and I'm side stage just on my own little riser. And then obviously they plug all the power in and stuff and do a line check sort of off the stage. So yeah, I mean, we're starting from early. Like the later the show, the later we start, I think. I'm pretty sure. Like, I mean, yeah, most of the time it's early anyway, regardless of the show time. But around, I'd say 8 o'clock on stage, and we're starting to load in.
Yeah. Well, 8 a.m. just to, yeah. So that's then like a long day after you set up.
The days are really long. Like,
yeah.
you know, don't get me wrong. After sound check, we sort of go away for 4 or 5 hours, and kill time, sleep, whatever. But yeah, no, we're starting early because you think of it. Say if it was just us playing, I mean, we could. If the show was at 9, we could probably set up at 5 and we'd be all right. But that's not how it works. Like we just set up early, get it done, and then we don't have to worry about it really.
Yeah.
And so when you're line checking or sound checking, that's you playing the kit.
Yeah. So line checking. So the line check really is just basically checking the snares, checking the toms and the SPD, checking all the triggers, make sure basically all coming out. And if I'm lucky and my front of house guy lets me, then I'll do a little. I'll play a little bit. I get excited when that happens because he puts it through the PA, and that's when I feel like a true rock star. So if I'm lucky, that happens. But normally it's just going dun dun dun, and then I'll move on to, because I sound check keys and stuff. I mean, I can't play keys to save my life, but I make it work. So
and would Ben then come and do a proper sound check?
Yeah, I don't do the sound check, so I only do the line check. Make sure it's all like patched in, make sure it's all coming out the PA. I plug into his ear pack as well, just make sure his ears are all good. Obviously, I've got my own ears, but just basically make sure it's all ready for him to walk on stage, and all he has to do is sit down and play. I don't want him to do anything. Like, I got to take all the hassle out for him, and that goes for all the band. Like every single member, like I don't want any hassle for them. So yeah, but I haven't been asked to play sound check yet. I'm waiting for the day. Because that'll be fun. But nah, he does a sound check. So.
I wanted to ask about tuning quickly, because you mentioned that before you'd done this, you hadn't really tuned anyone else's kit. And what are the sort of? I mean, I'm sure you just learn as you go. What are the kind of?
Is that a J20?
It's a J20. Yes.
That's a great shout. Great shout on a Wednesday morning.
Why would you not? It's just basically orange juice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I applaud it. I applaud your selection of drink choice. Sorry, George.
No, it's okay.
You just can't throw a J2O in the scene and not mention it.
And also the fact that it's a really dark room, and then we just see that bright orange pop up.
I tried to sort of drink it, and I didn't know it would be that obvious, but it actually quite is. Like, look.
Yeah.
J20.
This is it.
I do know they're called J2Os, by the way. I just like calling it J20.
No, that's quite cool. It seems like retro somehow to call it a J20.
J20. I want a T-shirt that says J20.
I think I'm too old to call it a J20. I'm approaching 40. I don't think it works for me. Anyway, George, you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that you kind of learn things on the fly when if you're changing from venue to venue, and also outdoors and indoors. I'm sure that's different. But what are the kind of? Is there any sort of things you've learned about tuning and how to make a kit sound better since starting this?
Mate, 100%. Like, it's actually probably one of the things I'm most proud of is how I can make a kit sound now. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not sitting here and saying any kit you give me straight away I'm going to get it sound amazing. Like I trial and error. I'm not perfect, and it takes me time. But I've now with Ben's kit, like it's very low tunings, so it is very much helpful that it's low, because it's I say it's easier to tunes than 8-inch toms. He doesn't have any, thank God. If you have an 8-inch tom, I'll be there for 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? But the fact it's quite low is quite nice. But mate, that's honestly, tuning is just one of the biggest things I've learned, because I don't tune a drum and then say that's fine. I tune a drum to how Ben wants it. I tune a drum to how I like it. I tune a drum to how the front of house guys. If the front of house guys say, "Look, that sounds duff," I'm not going to get offended. It's not an ego thing. The bottom line is to get the drums sounding the best they can. So quite often the front of house guy will say, "Yeah, that sounds a bit." You know what I mean? I'll just adjust it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, wicked. That's rocking." Oh God, I've never said that in my life. That's
rocking. Yeah.
Damn.
I like to though. J20, that's rocking.
Keep rocking. Bloody hell. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, it was quite, because when my first day, I think I changed heads on the first day, because it had been in storage, and I was like, oh damn, like, I wish I could leave the heads on. It was sort of already tuned. I've got to tune it from literally a flappy head.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I 100%. I tune by ear, with Ben's kit, I don't use a drum dial or a tune bot, and maybe that's not the best way, but for me it works on this tour. Tuning by ear, I know how it sounds, and I hate faffing about with all these numbers and like trying to get it all even when as soon as you hit it, it's all uneven anyway. Yeah, I'd say like just learning, always making always just doing the reso, the batter, like the slight, and I've learned as well, it's slight movements. I used to tune and go, cool, yeah. It's like, mate, it's not it. It's literally like I could literally go, and it will be totally like different sound. So that's 100% like what I've learned, and having it out for the PA as well. When I go out and sound check and listen to the PA, and like sometimes be like, oh yeah, Tom sounds a bit duff, so I'll then change it and like do a little tweak. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things I've learned.
Yeah,
it's just the tuning.
Do you have like a sort of a method, a fixed sort of process that you found works for you? You mentioned about tuning reso first and then batter. Do you have like a starting point that you always sort of go to?
Yeah, so I always, what I do is I used to, it's weird because again, I'm not saying I'm not saying anything's right, but I sort of, you get taught to go around and do opposites. And now, like, I mean, watching videos, like YouTube videos, like when I was sort of, back at the start, I sort of but I do one lug, say on the reso, find the tone that I believe sounds how the other head sounds, so the same, and just tune the other lugs, obviously, as close as that as possible. So yeah, like I just do all the lugs on the reso, and then I always sort of start to tune with nothing on the snare, and then because he has like snare weights on the snare and stuff, so I'll flick the snares off, tune it, because it to the tone or pitch or what, I don't know, whatever, and then I'll sort of throw the snares on, put the snare weight, give it a good crack, and then sort of just do little adjustments. I normally, if I hit a drum and it's a bit like sometimes I'm like, I've just put it all together. Now I've got to take it off and do the reso. And like one thing I've learned is the reso is so important, man. Like,
so do you recommend like tuning the reso with the batter head off?
I don't do that now.
Right,
I always sort of, even if I've just put the batter head on and the lugs are loose, I'll tune the reso. I actually don't think I've ever tuned a drum with the batter head off. Obviously you can, whatever floats your goat, but I just like to sort of leave the batter head on and do the reso first, and then do the batter.
What skins is Ben using at the moment?
It's got ambassador coated. Actually, I think we're going to try. We might switch to pinstripe because the internal. I mean, I don't know all the technology for the heads, but the internal muffling on the pinstripe, I think, is probably going to help what we want to achieve a bit more, because we use a lot of snare weights. The snare weights are good, but they flap around a bit.
Yeah. How often I've got to ask, because I used to work as, I don't know what the word is, stagehand or whatever. I was one of the people that brings the gear in.
Yeah.
At a Brighton Centre. And I worked with the Blondie drum tech once, and he said that he changes the snare heads every gig. How often are you sort of mentioned it earlier, but how often are you changing snare heads? And I mean, even the toms.
So I'll say this, so that the setup is snare one, like normal place. You got our 12-inch tom, you then got a 16-inch floor, and then here next to the 16-inch we've got a 14-inch snare, but with the snare wires flipped off, so it's tuned like a tom. And I don't know why that's there, but that was there when I started, so I've just done it. I've just never asked, but it sounds cool. It does sound cool. It's like you can sort of ride on it, and it sounds a bit like, it's not as low, and it's a bit like a tom. And then we got snare 2 here, which is a low snare with a big fat snare drum on. So again, I don't, because the gig doesn't require, like, I know people who work with Royal Blood, they're changing snare heads probably 15 times an hour or something. I don't know, because Ben's an absolute unit. But the Rag and Bone Man gig doesn't, like, watching Ben playing, talking to him, it doesn't require, it's a very sort of mellow, but in parts frantic drum part. You know what I mean? So he doesn't. He hits the snare a nice cracky rim shot, but he's not beating it. Like it's not like a. So I'd still say like 6-7 shows.
Yeah.
Just want to sort of know that, because obviously, as you know, in his other podcast, I was listening to this morning, his one. Obviously, he plays with his stick the other way around. So I mean, so obviously the snare head's not going to take as much because he's got the butt end of the stick just whacking the snare.
Yeah.
But I'll sort of judge it as well by looks. Like sometimes I've gone more than 6 or 7 shows because the snare, it's holding up. But you can sort of tell by the marks and stuff. But yeah, I honestly wouldn't say that frequently at all.
No, that makes sense, because if it doesn't need to be changed. I remember that with that one I did, and I was like, change it every day, And I was
Do you know what?
That's a lot. But if it needs to be,
Yeah, and I think as well is if you've got the biggest budget in the world, I'm not going to lie, I probably would change them every day.
Yeah.
And obviously I've got nothing to do with budget and all that, but I don't, for us, for our tour, changing every day is quite excessive. But that's a normal thing. As you said, you work with a Blondie drum tech. I mean, that's a massive tour, and I think that's a common thing to change it every day. And I think, maybe we would, but it's again, I guess it's a personal thing. Some people like their heads a bit more worn in. Actually, I do. I like a head after about 2 days playing. Really, you sort of you've worked it in, and like it feels a bit more natural rather than like a fresh new head.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is mad, the budget on that gig, that Blondie gig, because he said to me, he was like, "Is there a music shop around here?" And I was like, "Well, there's a Gap down the road." He was like, "Okay, like we might get some new cymbals." And I swear to God, he pulled out like a sort of Blondie credit card and was sent someone off, like, go and buy some go and get some Zildjian.
Runner off, yeah. He would have just said, "Here's the credit card. Go and get about 20 grand's worth of cymbals."
Done
it.
I'll do it.
Yeah,
you should have.
Yeah. I'll do it. I just won't come back.
One for Clem, one for me. One for Clem, one for me. Yeah.
I'll just scribble yours out on the receipt and say, "I made a mistake."
Exactly.
Moving on to the actual show time, I'm assuming your responsibilities aren't just solely in the setup. And
no. So
are you on hand for things if they go wrong during the show?
In my in-ear mix, I have Click. I have Ben's in-ear mix, and none of the other techs. Obviously, the monitor guy can go into it, but none of them have Click, so they're sort of listening just obviously for the sound and stuff. So it's very much like we've had shows where it will go because basically BJ, the MD, he all the countings are his voice on Logic. Ableton will use that, sorry. So it basically is just him going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then obviously the band will come in. But sometimes we've had it where because he starts counting and then it obviously makes the click then goes. So I mean, I'm not going to do a click noise, but you know what it sounds like, and it might go 1, 2, 1, 2. So like sometimes it just glitches, and we've had shows where the click's just gone mental, and like for a drummer that's just the worst nightmare. And I can't just start going and tapping Ben's back. Do you know what I mean? Because the click's going weird for me as well. So it's very much then I sometimes have been in control of the laptops because I basically have on side of stage. I have a MIDI keyboard where I start the show from, and just starts the playback. And I basically got it there. If something normally when the click goes wrong, the monitor guy Giovanni just takes the mix out of his ears and just gets rid of the click, so it doesn't throw him off. But I basically got it there to stop it. So I am on hand the whole show. If the cymbal, like the top of the cymbal stand flips back or something, or I rarely
flips level.
Yeah, flips level. I just be like, just play it, Ben. That's how cymbals are supposed to be. He's like, no, put it back. So so I just basically run on, do your little roadie run, stick your head down and just like run on quickly and just fix it. But I mean, I don't actually do a lot during the show. I'm very much just like watching. I'm looking at everyone, and that's another thing I've learned as well. Actually, is like I am a drum tech, but I sort of I'm a backline tech. There's no one in that band that can't come to me. There's no one that can say, look, this isn't working or fix this. I'll always say, look, I'm here to make everything easier for everyone. Because I feel like if I just went, like, obviously initially I just worked with Ben, but I feel like if I just went there and worked with Ben, because it's me and a guitar tech, you know, we haven't got a keyboard tech, and I feel like the keyboard player, you know, he needs someone to come to as well. So I sort of just be an overall tech, and that happens in any artist I work for. I'll try and do everything. I don't just do drums.
I mean, when Ben was on the podcast, he was talking about how long, you know, that band has been a band and how close they all are. And I can imagine, yeah, if you came in and were like, you know, I imagine it'd be quite hard almost to just be like,
Yeah.
I'm just sticking to Ben. It's like if everyone's, you know, getting on great, it's like, yeah, I'll give you a hand, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, do you know what? Like I'm now, like, I look at every single member in that band as, for me, a close friend. I love every single one of them. And I think I've built up that relationship with them, you know, obviously, you know, with the downtime, just chatting to them and stuff, but as well is being there for everyone. Like, I think, you know, as you said, if I was just sort of like, if the keyboard stand's falling down, I'm like, nah, it's not my job. I'm a drum tech.
Yeah.
I mean, well, what you do, one of those things is like, you know, sometimes Ben's like, oh, can you do this? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm just doing this with the keys. 1 second. So yeah, that's just how it's worked out. It's just,
Yeah.
I think it's just how it's worked out.
You mentioned about Tunisia, and you mentioned earlier as well about like rental kits. How often are you using rental gear? What scenarios are you using that in? I'm guessing when you're traveling abroad.
Yeah.
And do you have any kind of, as a drum tech, are you involved in what that rental gear is and how that gets sorted?
Yeah, so normally in a broad show we'll use a rental kit, and let's say we've done a broad shows, don't get me wrong, where I mean, I can't remember where. Maybe, let's say, for example, we drove to France. We got the ferry, or I don't know, whatever. We've taken our kit with the tour bus and the fly by night. But recently, the run we did, every show was a rental kit. And what happens is my production manager sends me a list of what we've got, and I'll just go through it. And so I don't necessarily choose what we get, but I make sure we've got everything. So I'll get sent a rider or a list of all the drums and stuff we've got, and then make sure it's all good. But the run we did Lithuania, Denmark, Tunisia, Belgium, all rental kits. So every kit is different, and it's cool actually, because one of our backing singers, Des, again, one of my great pals, she said, "Oh, I didn't realize that Ben uses a different kit every time." And I said, "I take that as a bloody compliment, mate," because she had no idea those 4 kits in about 2 weeks were different. Yeah. So most fly shows, that's it. If we're flying and it's abroad, we'll use rental. If we can drive and the tour chooses to drive, we'll use our own.
I want to talk about you. I mean, what's your history in drumming?
I started when I was, I think, 11 or 12. I'm now 22, around 9 years. I can't remember exactly when I started, so I say around 9 years every time. So in 5 years' time, I'll still be saying around 9 years. But so I started basically doing grades. My teacher took me through to grade 3. I was never really interested. I didn't start doing grades till like the end of it, you know, sort of doing it as a hobby. And then basically it was when I went to college. I was going to go to college and do carpentry. I was so into woodwork, man. I don't know what it was. I still am now. I just love working with wood, like product design, all that stuff. My dad and my brother are architects, so maybe that's got something to do with it. But I love creatives. And I basically was like, yeah, I went to Chichester College, had a look, and I was like, mate, I'm sold. This is what I want to do. I want to be a tradie. I want to be a carpenter for life. And then I went to Northbrook College in Worthing. Do you guys know where Worthing is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're both Ben and I, fucking hell, are from Portsmouth, but I'm now in Brighton. But I went to Chichester College, so yeah.
Oh yeah, cool, man.
But yeah, sorry, you went to Northbrook.
Right. I went to the Northbrook College in Worthing, saw the studios, and went, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do. And then fucked up the carpentry. And then was like, I want to do music, and then just signed up, and then just that was it. 3 years there. Then I did 2 years at uni.
Where were you at uni?
Waterbear, place called Waterbear.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I did a diploma at college and then went to do a degree in music performance in uni. I dropped out after 2 years. But it basically, I've always said I saw the studios and that's what made me want to do music. I couldn't believe it when I walked in. I just thought, and I'll always give it to Norfolk. Their studios are crazy.
Really?
Yeah, man. If you ever get a chance just to walk around, it's real.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what they're like now, but they were amazing.
So is that an equal passion in your life, the studio side of things?
So when I went, my main thing was like looking at the sort of, because I just remember going with my dad, hearing through the studio with the desk into the live room and seeing the drums, and that's what I remember. I always remember that, and that's when I was like, yeah, this is what I do. And like for me, the recording side and studio side, I like being involved, but I'm not interested in being a producer. Really, I'm not. It's just not in me. I've tried. Believe me, I've tried. It's not. I just find it a struggle. I do want to sort of get into MDing. I'd love to MD a band, and I would like to sort of create shows, backing tracks and all this for artists. But no, the studio sort of engineer side, not really. So it is very much the live aspect.
Yeah, same as me. I mean, Ben is currently, speaking from his studio, and I used to work with Ben for a few years.
This isn't it. This is the office.
The studio. No.
That's
the whole studio.
Yeah, mate. Wow. One day you have to go send me a video, man. I want to see a tour.
Well,
yeah. I'll send you a link to the studio.
Yeah. We'll just,
There's something magical, I think. I remember, first going to studios when I was a kid, but when you just see on, photos or clips of your favorite drummers when you're a kid, like seeing a drum kit mic'd up through the window, is just like, I want that in my life, whether I'm recording, whichever side of the glass I'm on. But there's just something about, I think a really nice setup, proper mics in a great live room. There's just something so majestic, and you're just like, that is magical,
Totally agree, man. And that's literally what happened. I just saw it and was like, yeah, like it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. The fact that they can turn someone around, like they can change my mind by walking in, and that's what they've smashed. They've absolutely killed it, because anyone who walks in there normally ends up doing it. And I just think, around 9 years, I'm still doing it.
Were you in any bands at school or anything, or sixth form?
So I remember, actually, this is a funny. Oh mate, you just made me remember. This is a funny story, man. Oh my god. So I was in middle school, and I was doing lessons, and I always remember playing Sweet Home Alabama. And I don't think I've played it since, but man, I was like, I'm a rock star, man, when I was playing it. And there was this thing called a rock band in school. And I remember seeing a drummer and think, man, I want to be in that. It was weird. I'd say like one day I got the call, and I sort of just ended up being in it. Oh, man, it's so embarrassing. And I remember we were playing, rehearsing, and we were playing Adele, Rolling in the Deep. And we were rehearsing for a assembly performance. I mean, back when you're that age, man, that is great.
That was your chance to be king of the school.
I mean, this was my chance to get all the gals, and damn, I'm on the drums. They're all looking at me, but we'll get into that. So we're playing rehearsals, all good. And that comes to the show day. So we're on the stage. All the lights are all dark, and everyone's sitting down on their bums with their crossed legs, as you do in assembly. And we begin to play Rolling in the Deep. And I'm like, yeah, this is wicked. Really, really cool. Obviously, back then, I say back then like I'm old, but in school, it was very much just like I didn't have any earplugs or anything. I very much was just playing drums and listening to them. I mean, I probably didn't even have a monitor. Let's be honest. Like, it was probably just total ridiculous. And I always remember we were playing it, and I was like, yeah, this is cool, rocking along. And the singers finished the song. I didn't hear them. So I'm just playing. And in my head, I'm singing the song, and I'm just rolling in the deep, and I'm just playing, man. I keep playing drums. And then I realize everyone stop and just go, and just stop. And like, oh mate, that's like a traumatizing story I was just couldn't look up. It's about 50. We were 50 kids, which found like it felt like a pool of 10,000 hunters.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just can't look up. Yeah, I can't remember what else happened that day. After the show and stuff, but I'm pretty sure people looked around at me on stage and thought, like, you're a weirdo, you're done. You're out of the band, man.
Yeah. Those are the scariest gigs because you know everyone as well. You're going to see them the next day and for the next how many years.
I actually forgot the question telling that story because I was actually feeling quite traumatized. But
just yeah.
Okay.
Did you like join any bands or anything?
Yeah, so I joined a band in college. Just started a band with my mate Vin. I was in that band for 4 years, and then basically, I joined another band, a band I'm in now called Weller. Go check us out. Pick up Weller. It's like Paul Weller, but without the Paul. And it just didn't work out having two bands because I was investing financially. I didn't have the time. So now I'm in one band called Weller, and we're a sort of new metal band, which is not my music at all. But man, it's really fun to play live.
What is your music then?
So a band called Don Broco?
Yeah.
Very much influenced by them.
Okay.
Yeah. Very much that sort of Don Broco, Sleep Token-esque sort of thing. We've got elements of rap in there. So yeah, it's sort of like it's a new sort of metal-y. I mean, I don't really know how to describe the genre, but
I'm guessing as well, you're too young for the initial new metal phase.
Oh, mate, I mean, I'm not a metal guy. Like, I've never really set foot on a double kick. I very much play in my band with a pop setup, cranked toms, 2 rack toms, 1 floor, all the cymbals. Like, it doesn't really look like I don't look like a metal drummer really, but man, it's really, really fun. Because I was going to say, actually, my main goal, sorry, I know I'm rambling, but
Please.
quickly, when I was on tour, one of the things I'm most actually grateful for is touring with these musicians, because what you got to remember is when I'm not teching, like, that's my job. I mean, in the free time, I mean, I'm still learning. I'm not just like going out and getting ridiculously drunk. I mean, sometimes, but like what happened was I just get so much insightful sort of advice from like people. And recently I was saying, I want to be a pop drummer. I want to be a pop drummer because my thing is pop music, R&B music. When I'm at home, I don't play metal. I play, to Ariana Grande or Justin Bieber, all these like, very commercial pop artists. And that's what I really want to get into. But actually, like, one of my friends, Paul, was saying to me, like, just, you don't want to be a pop drummer, you want to be a drummer. You know what I mean? And that's why I don't mind playing in this band, metal music, because I want to be able to do everything. I don't necessarily want to pigeonhole myself into one genre. And that's why any genre that comes my way, I give it a go. And I just want to be a massive, like a all-round drummer. Like, I want to be able to play anything. Play with a metal band and then go play with like Justin Timberlake or something. You know what I mean? Like, obviously not actually him, but
to me, it just feels like, I mean, obviously I'm nearly 40 now, and like, so I grew up like when new metal came along.
Yeah.
I was at school, I was in year 10, year 11.
Yeah.
So it's weird now thinking like, so that would be like me being in a Metallica band when I was at, you know. But it feels to me that normally it's the other way around. Like, drummers are metal and then they go and have to play pop.
No, do you know what, actually?
And so you're like, no, I really like the pop stuff, but I'm playing metal.
You're so right, because I went to Pirate Studios with one of my friends, and he's playing with a couple of pop artists in that sort of genre, and he was like, man, like, he's a metal drummer. No, not a metal drummer, but I've always known him to play metal. And he was like, mate, we're doing the opposite. And we were sitting there thinking, mate, we literally are. Like, I sort of want to be doing what you're doing, but I'm doing this. And you sort of want to be doing what I'm doing, but you're doing this. And obviously, we love what we're doing. We wouldn't change it for the world. Like, he's not saying I don't want to actually do it, but you are so right. Like, normally, as you said, it's like a metal drummer ends up playing pop and has to sort of tone it down. And it's very much been like, man, I've had to learn how to hit hard.
Yeah.
Always playing pop genres and stuff. And then suddenly I'll be like, okay, like, And don't get me wrong, I'll send you guys some links to our music. It's not metal, like it's not.
I had a listen.
Yeah, we looked
sounds
you
good,
up.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely got the new metal vibes. I was like, oh, this is taking me back to 2001.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, boys. But
I mean, Bad Vibes got #1 on the iTunes download metal chart. So,
it did. Yeah, it was pretty cool, man.
do my research. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know what you mean about playing for different artists that you perhaps wouldn't,
Yeah.
I don't know, listen to, because it is just a great way to learn. And I think if you pigeonhole yourself, I mean, I was very into metal when I was like 14, 15, and I was like, I'm not going to play anything else. And then it was actually going to BIM where I sort of learned about jazz and stuff.
You go to BIM?
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, and then it's just kind of like, oh no, there's other music out there,
Yeah, literally, because I think that's what happens. You sort of find a genre and you sort of run with it, and then you sort of get older and you're like, oh wow, there's so much to.
I think you can take all different things from, like, I was in a punk ska band. I've done metal and hard rock and punk, and I do a lot of studio session stuff. So a lot of that, is pop or indie. And there's definitely like elements of each genre you can take into another genre.
Oh man,
it can all help enhance your playing.
Yeah, and I think that's like in our band, that's again something I sort of pride myself on is. It's funny, we have a joke, like they always say, oh, I'm the pop guy and they're all the metal guys. But I've very much taken in my influence, the feels you do, the actual feel of, playing, the kit setup and all that. Like, I haven't gone traditional double kick, massive toms, loads of chinas. I do use a china, but I've very much stuck to how I feel comfortable playing and my sort of my playing, my influences, and just brought that in. So I think, as you were saying, it's great that.
Well, I reckon as well, and like new metal sort of stuff. Like even if you take some Linkin Park, like there's moments in the verses where it's a very sort of almost soulful groove.
Right, 100%.
That if you're coming from the pop R&B background, it's perfect. Like you can't just plow through.
Oh, you're right.
Some of those emotional verses.
Yeah.
It needs a bit of bounce and a bit of life.
Just sort of having all that and bringing it together. So it's like, I very much brought that into our band.
We're going to move on to our final question. You might know what it is, you might not. But who is your favorite delivery company?
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Do you know what? Amazon. Not because I don't know. I used to work for them. I used to drive, and by all means, I don't recommend anyone drives for Amazon. And I don't actually really like the company and all that. I don't know all the politics and stuff, but I just like it because it's quick.
Yeah.
Got so many things where I'm going on tour and then I've just ordered it and it's there the morning after. And that's purely the only reason why it's probably my favorite delivery company.
Any bad delivery companies or?
Has anyone
delivery
fucked anything
stories?
up for a tour like that you needed? And...
Oh my gosh. I had was it DPD? When I got my Star Classic delivered, they left it on my doorstep.
Wow.
What, the whole kit?
Yeah, they left it on my doorstep. I had to get my mate to pick it up. And they just sent me a photo and just said it's on your doorstep. I said, are you joking?
I mean, that's not a small package either. A full...
See, they were all inside each other and it was just one big box and it said Tama all around the box and it was all taped up and said fragile and they left it on the doorstep. I think it was DPD, but I don't want to, if it's not, then I'm very sorry, DPD. But I was fuming. I couldn't believe.
May as well put a sign that just says free drums for the street to see.
It's free to collect. Free to everyone who actually wants it. And it's like, I had to get my mate to come pick it up. So big up my mate, picked it up in his doorstep instead.
Wow. Where can people find you and your band?
Do you know what? You can actually find me. I've just got a logo sort of made. Dane Drums.
Oh, I love it.
That is my name. I'll send it over. It's a bit unclear, but my mate's Neo. He's a great designer, so he's just designed me a few logos. Dano Drums on Instagram. Weller Official UK on Instagram. Facebook. I don't really use Facebook. I just scroll when I'm on the toilet. Really, I don't actually really post any videos on there. So just find me on Insta, Dano Drums and Weller Official UK. and then soon I'll have a sort of a logo out and a branding sort of thing. So I'll send that over. That's where you can find me, man.
But we'll post
Yeah,
links to all of
100%.
that, to all your stuff, and
Yeah.
go check Weller out.
I was thinking about it today, and I saw it on your Insta. Can I get one of your t-shirts?
Yeah, 100%. We'll have to make them.
Yeah.
I saw one of you wearing a t-shirt, and I was thinking, well, I don't know if they've got t-shirts, but I very much like the t-shirt, and I'm a t-shirt collector when I go to the different tour. You know, when I go to different festivals, I love collecting t-shirts and, you know, bigging up these different sort of festivals or brands. So, mate, if you can sort that out, then I'd love to big you up.
We'll sort it out for you, mate.
Yeah. Ride around Worthing.
Yeah.
We'll get you on sorted, and we want to see you on stage at a Rag and Bone Man.
Oh, as soon as I got it, mate, that next gig that's mine, you'll see me wearing it.
I might feel like that'd be promo and a half.
Yeah. 10,000 people. I'll be like, drum and drum, mate.
Also, let us know what Ben's size is as well.
Yeah, we'll do, man.
And Rory's.
100%.
Yeah.
And Rory.
Okay. How many in the crew? We'll sort everyone out. As one Rag and Bone Man show, everyone in a Drum and Drummer t-shirt. Let's make it happen.
Back to you, man. 100%. That'd be wicked. We can make that
That'd be
happen.
amazing.
Sweet. Thanks so much for your time, mate. It's been great
cheers,
chatting.
Dano.
Amazing insight on what it's like being a tech and your career and stuff. It's great, and wish you all the best.
Sure, because I mean, I ramble a lot, and obviously we got an hour, but yeah, 100%, man. If anyone has any questions, just please feel free to message me. Like, I love chatting to people about it and telling them, you know, I've had people ask me what they're into, like how they want to get into it and stuff, and I just love talking to people. So please feel free to send me the questions, because I know I've rambled and, you know, not necessarily covered everything, but yeah.
This is the place to ramble.
Yeah,
this is
my
it.
God. If there's any way you can ramble with a J20.
Yeah. Sweet. Thanks very much, mate. There we go.
That was our interview. Couldn't help myself. Do you know what that was like? It was like when you pretend to let someone walk, and then you walk at the same time through a door, and then you get crammed in the door. I thought I'm gonna wait till Ben speaks and then talk over him. That was our interview with Dano. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And I am absolutely craving a J20. A nice, chilled J20.
I think it's the fact that he was drinking it at 10 a.m. I was like,
yes, that was the surprising.
That's a baller
Well, it's
move.
it's not a drink I'd ever consider really for home purchase.
No. No.
But I might have to reconsider.
As he said, it's just like orange juice. You know, people have orange juice for breakfast. What's a J20? How is that different, you know?
Yeah. I think it's just associated with clubbing for some reason, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even as, you know.
Well, he has worked in nightclubs, so maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe he, you know, that if you can take Dano out of the club, but can you take the club out of Dano, you know? If he's
I
having
think it's
J2Os
like
in the morning.
You know, when you're a kid, you kind of eat what your parents get in, innit? You're sort of beholden to their will, as it were. You know, and then you become an adult and it's like, oh, I can buy what I want. But you fall into routine, don't you? You fall into routine. You buy the same stuff every week. I mean, I do. It's Spag Bowl. But every week.
Yeah.
You know, I actually think there was not long ago, I didn't have it for a couple of weeks. And I actually think I felt withdrawal symptoms. Like, I was like, I'm really craving. Yeah. Really craving one. You know. But I'm a fan of the Pepsi Cherry Max. So I'm always stocked up at home. One a day. I'll just have one a day. Don't want to go mental. And I'll have squash. Yeah. And recently I've been delving into squashes that are flavoured by like sweeties. So like there's Refreshers squash, Love Heart squash, and Bubblegum Squashies squash.
You're nearly 40, all three. Right? Yeah. Nearly 40.
But it is weird when you're like, oh yeah, I can buy anything. Yeah. And then one time, and I'm pretty sure it was in lockdown, I treated myself, and it felt like an insane, really a treat, like a real luxury box of Capri Sun in the fridge. You know,
that's a throwback. I haven't had one of them since I was a child.
But if I'm meal dealing it, Capri Sun, mate.
Do you?
I'll get a Capri Sun if it's there.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But then you're like, to have them. You know, oh yeah, I could buy 100 Capri Sun and just have them.
Yeah.
But for some reason you don't. I don't know.
No. Isn't that mental? You know, we both have cars. At any time of the day or night, if you know where the 24-hour shop is, you can get in your car and drive and go and buy some cake and eat a whole cake if you want. You know what I mean?
You could just drive.
Mental.
You could just go, I'm going to go to Manchester.
Yeah.
You could just drive there.
Yeah.
You could just drive there now.
Yeah,
I also think you could also just go to the airport and just go...
Random EasyJet.
Yeah. And just go, can I buy a ticket?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You could just, take your passport and get on a plane.
Yeah.
But we don't, because we have mortgages and bills to pay.
We
are part of the system, and that will never change.
Thanks for listening.
I hope you enjoyed our chat with Dano.
Yeah.
I certainly did. I've always wondered, fascinated by what drum techs...
Yeah.
I sort of had an idea what they do, but to get a real insight and, learn on the job.
Well, as I mentioned, you know, when I was working as a stagehand, when the techs came in, that was when we were told to leave. You know, we'd work 7 a.m. till 12 or something. And then they'd be like, all the techs are in, and you could tell they were techs because, you know, they wear all black and they look better than us. We're all scruffy stoners, and then these guys come in and like, oh, the techs are here, you know. And they're like, we'll take over from here. You guys can go. And, so it's interesting. It's like, what is a day in the life of a drum tech? Because, you know, it has, as he said, for Ben Thomas to just get on the kit and he doesn't have to do anything. There has to be someone to do that. And, it's interesting how it all comes together. Yeah. And how he was thrown in at the deep end.
I mean, I'll never be in a position where I have a drum tech, but I'm so particular about my kit setup and I like tuning and setting up my kit. I wonder in what point, that almost like relinquishing that responsibility to someone else. It's got to be someone you trust, and that person has to know their role, So I think it's a very interesting sort of dynamic and relationship. When it works, must be bloody brilliant.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just have someone on hand, to. But I like that he said, when he's the show's going on, he's got his eye on everyone.
Yeah.
Also, I found this really. I didn't ask him further, but they've all got the fucking tracks in their ears. And you're like, yeah, of course they have.
Yeah,
of course they have.
Yeah.
And you're like, I never thought of that. Never thought that. Oh yeah. But, yeah.
No.
And go
Brilliant.
check out his band. Really cool. Well, go check them out. Really good stuff.
Definitely.
Should we go?
Let's do it. Because you're going to go watch the women's football.
Yeah.
I mean, you missed the first half.
I know. Chatting away to you.
This is it.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Drum and Drummer. You can find us on Instagram at Drum and Drummer Podcast. And you can send us an email to drumanddrummerpod@gmail.com. Remember, just pick up the sticks and twat it.